You're listening to Menopause Natural Solutions, episode 70. Today we're going to be discussing how childhood trauma may affect your menopausal transition. And with me is special guest Sally Garozzo, a Rapid Transformational Therapist from Menopause Mindset. Welcome to Menopause Natural Solutions, your podcast for all things perimenopause, menopause and beyond. Stay tuned as your host, naturopath Jennifer Harrington, explains how to use natural therapies to find your ultimate health and happiness during your transition. Hi ladies, it's Jen here, and today we have more of a serious topic that we need to discuss, and that is how childhood traumas may affect your menopausal transition. So this is not something I want for any of you, so I have invited special guest Sally Garozzo to come and help to clear any trauma that we may be still carrying around with us so that we can have an easier transition into menopause. But let me tell you a little bit about Sally. Sally is a Rapid Transformational Therapist and a Menopause Mindset Coach. She's hugely passionate about innovative approaches to health and well-being that are rooted in neuroscience. She has first-hand experience with dissolving personal challenges linked to perimenopause, such as chronic anxiety, depression, insomnia, weight gain, stress, and burnout, plus other issues like degenerative disc disease, relationship issues, money blocks, paralyzing perfectionism, sugar cravings, and codependency. It's her mission to enable women to rewrite their childhood conditioning so that they can have a happy menopausal transition. So without further ado, well, Sally, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Jennifer. Thanks for having me.
Oh, look, it's our absolute pleasure. Now, something in your bio has really caught me, and that is rewriting their childhood conditioning so that they can have a happy menopausal transition. What has childhood conditioning got to do with menopause?
Well, I had this hunch that it had something to do with it because when I looked at all my clients that were coming to me for RTT and hypnosis, I could see that they were all in their midlife transition. They were all sort of going through their perimenopause or their menopause, and they had symptoms, whether knowingly or unknowingly. And when I started putting the pieces of the puzzle together, I actually found some research from the Mayo Clinic. And they discovered that women who had adverse childhood experiences, there was a correlation between that and more severe menopause symptoms. And I thought to myself, oh my God, it was like one of those light bulb moments that just sort of went on. There was no sort of reason why in that study, but I put my sort of curious hat on and started to investigate why this might be. And trauma, massively affects the way that we feel about ourselves and the world around us. And we get codes, we get imprints that happen in our childhood. And those codes and those imprints, those beliefs that we learn about ourselves, the world's a scary place, I'm not worthy, I have to make other people happy. All this sort of negative language, which isn't true, but it feels true, it really affects the autonomic nervous system. And the autonomic nervous system is the system that sort of regulates or dysregulates everything in the body, the hormones, temperature, blood sugar, blood pressure, and as well the stress response. As you know, nothing happens in isolation in the body. And so we know that stress makes menopause worse. Stress makes menopausal symptoms worse. And so that doesn't matter if it's recent stress or if it's past stress that's stored in your autonomic nervous system from way back when. That stress can stress can stay in the body for a very, very, very long time. You might not mentally be thinking about it. It might not be on your radar mentally, but the memory of that stress will stay in the body for a very long time. And the body will create certain conditions, certain responses, certain happenings that are a result of those codes and those imprints and those beliefs that you learn about yourself as a child. And, we know that high stress creates, inflammation in the body. It creates weight gain. There's all sorts of things going on when we have high stress, especially at menopause, with those fluctuating hormones. So it's a really, really interesting discussion to be had. And also there's this idea, that the mind and body are inextricably linked. So how you feel about yourself and what you think about yourself tends to manifest, it tends to be realized. And at menopause, the estrogen is declining. And so I like to think of it as the veil is thinning. And how we feel about ourselves tends to come out when this estrogen declines. And how we deal with certain situations, when we have all this estrogen, we deal with things perhaps differently. When we don't have all this estrogen and progesterone and testosterone, all the other hormones, we really struggle. Our confidence drops, and perhaps we get more ratty. Often people say, I've heard my clients say that was already there, but I used to just deal with it much better when in my 20s and 30s. Now I'm in my 40s and 50s. I just can't deal with the stress anymore. And so we really need to look at what those habits and behaviors are that you've been carrying through your whole life, that you probably learned in childhood, unpick them for you so that you can then go into your menopause transition or your midlife transition becoming a different person, learning a new way of being that's actually sustainable for you. And that could be, eating differently, creating much more healthy habits for yourself. It could be, much more self-care, better communication in relationships. So the struggle that we experience at menopause is actually so beneficial for us if we can see it like that, if we can use our minds in a curious way rather than in a way that's sort of self-defeating. Yeah. That was a long-winded answer anyway.
Well, just to go from what you were saying is I often hear the transition described as we're butterflies trying to get out of our cocoon. Like it is a struggle, but when we get out, we're beautiful, we're happy, we're version 2.0, the new and improved, upgraded model. And unfortunately, sometimes you do need to go through, process things in order to update
Absolutely.
yourself.
Yeah, so much good can come from a crisis. I mean, there's so many metaphors and analogies about this, but, the global pandemic at the moment, hopefully something really good will come out of this, but there's always opportunity in struggle. There's always opportunity in crisis. We just have to be switched on to being problem solvers rather than victims. So, yeah.
And being creative. I think that's something you said before as well.
Yeah, creativity is hugely important. I'm really passionate about this at menopause because I think, the metaphorical or the literal flow is stopping. And so how do we regain that flow in our lives? And creativity is one of the ways that we can do that.
And there definitely is a big surge in creativity. Even like a lot of women will say that they'll pick up their knitting needles or their painting or their photography or whatever their passion was before, but it sort of got put aside with families and careers and life. And now all of a sudden there's time. It's like, right, what are my creative passions and outlets that I can rekindle?
Yeah. And I also think that women during the menopausal period go into business as well because they want to use what they've learnt through the well-being journey or through getting themselves better. So they tend to become, well, some women, not all women obviously, but they tend to become wellness entrepreneurs, or they create and develop these wellness businesses or creative businesses because they have this passion, this renewed passion for life. So yeah, there is an opportunity there for sure.
Yeah. So tell me about Rapid Transformational Therapy. What is it?
It's a 2-hour process that's done under hypnosis. I like to call it hypnosis on steroids. So the first time I had RTT, I believed I couldn't be hypnotized. And I went to see my therapist and I was absolutely 100% hypnotized. I couldn't open my eyes. I'd been told I couldn't open my eyes and I couldn't. And I found that I wasn't scared by it at all. I was just hugely fascinated. And after my RTT treatment, my anxiety diminished quite a lot. And I thought, wow, this is insane. And I'd been looking for something to retrain in myself. So I decided to train in it. So it's this phenomenal 2-hour process done under hypnosis that really, really gets to the root of your blocks. So yesterday, a lady came to me because she wanted to quit smoking, and it's never about the smoking. It's never about the eating. It's never about the anxiety. It's always about what's driving those problems, what's driving those issues. And you can usually trace it back to a scene, a place, event, a time that happened in your life when you received a message from a parent that you weren't worth listening to, or or your parent made you feel rejected, or your caregiver made you feel different. Because we'll come onto the planet with these needs. We need to feel connected. We need to feel the same as everybody else, especially when we're children. When we're older, not so much. We don't need to feel the same, because actually being different is a superpower. But when we're younger, when we're children, we really need to feel connected, the same. You know, I used to go to school taking Italian food because I was half Italian and Italian dad, very proud Italian dad. So I would take these kind of weird dishes that my school friends had never seen before, and they would be like, oh, that's disgusting. And you know, that made me feel ashamed of myself. It made me feel outcast. It made me feel different. And there you get an imprint, because when you're a child, you take things literally. You don't know that that's just them, that your Italianness is absolutely okay, that there's other people who are half Italian in the world. You know, you feel that everything is happening literally, and it will never change. And so when you're a kid, you know, there really is a monster under the bed, and that monster's never going away. Even it doesn't matter how much someone will tell you it's fine, it's not really there. You know, we are super absorbent when we're kids, and we're in hypnosis actually all the time, and that's why we are gaining and gathering all of those imprints. And so RTT just comes along and enables you to really look at what you learnt. So we decode it, we dissect it, we're like detectives working out what the imprints were that you gathered, what meaning you attached to those imprints, and then we change the meaning that you attach to them. We have conversations with the adults around you in your imagination, because your imagination is super powerful and your mind doesn't often know the difference between what is real and what is imagined. So under hypnosis, when you're having a conversation with mum or dad, it's really happening, and you're getting that emotional response and reaction as if they're right in front of you, because that's the power of hypnosis. It takes you deep into the emotions. So when we have when we're just in normal conversation with someone and we're talking about something traumatic, we don't necessarily go to the emotion. We can block the emotion. We can just sort of hover over it. We can skip over the emotion. But when you're in hypnosis, that link between the mind and body is wide open. Your body is there, ready and helping you to re-express those feelings and make sense of those feelings that you just can't make sense of as a child, but as an adult you can. So that's the power of hypnosis, really. And the power of RTT is that it's a system designed by Marissa Peer, you know, tried and tested. It's got lots of success behind it. And so, yeah, you take that system and you apply it to different issues that people come in with you. And then you get a recording to listen to for 30 days afterwards. And that recording is all the positive stuff, all the suggestions, everything that you want is in that recording. And then the rewiring process takes place because it enables you to focus on what you want. This is very interesting. When I speak to people over the phone and I ask them, so what do you want? You can tell me in great detail what the problem is, but can you tell me what you want? And people really struggle with that because they don't spend the time envisioning what they want, envisioning how they want to feel, and envisioning and imagining what they want their lives to look like. So that recording that I give someone has got all of that in because we work all of that out together. And that's where the rewiring takes place. What you focus on, you get more of. So that's how it works.
Wow. So what would be some of the most common complaints that people would come in and that you would work with them about?
So usually with menopause, it's things like I can't stop eating sugar. I'm having a terrible time in my relationship. I keep snapping. I can't sleep. That's a big one.
That's very common.
For menopause. Yeah, something that I've been through myself. So insomnia, relationship issues, libido, there's a big one. So, many women haven't really explored their sexuality in its fullest form. Maybe there's shame around their body changing, their lack of confidence. Again, this flow, this drying up, this sacral chakra stuff is just sort of diminishing. And that's where your sexuality, your creativity is. And also your femininity, like honoring yourself as a woman. What messages did you receive growing up about being a woman, about being sexual? I don't think many of us in this generation received very positive messages about sexuality when we were growing up. It was something that a lot of us weren't educated about properly.
And there's a huge amount of sexual assault with this.
Yes.
Well, with all generations, but with this generation particularly, and a lot of it was hidden under the cover, not spoken about.
Yeah, absolutely. So you do see it a lot in the work that I do, especially with weight. So women who are carrying a lot of weight and who always end up sort of losing weight and then putting it back on again. They actually subconsciously don't want to be thin or slim because
so protection.
That means exactly. Yeah. And it's like, if I'm slim, that equals danger because being attractive equals danger. And so there's no way their subconscious mind is going to let them lose the weight. And so they hold on to it as padding, protection, it's safety. It makes them feel safe. Yeah. I mean, weight is one of the big ones that I deal with. Anxiety as well is a massive issue that women come to me with at midlife. Yeah, but also I get the weird ones as well. I get like fear of heights, fear of spiders, fear of, chickens, all sorts of weird ones, a weird and wonderful array of things.
Awesome. So it's nice to know that there's options. That if you have got a weird phobia, maybe give Sally a call.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, well, Sally, if women are connecting with you and liking what they're hearing, how can they work with you?
So it's just a discovery call. We have a discovery call. I take lots of notes on that discovery call. That's free. But if you do decide to have a session with me, I use that discovery call to create your personalized script for you. And so if you just pop on to sallygarozzo.com, you'll find on the homepage there's a button that links to my page around Rapid Transformational Therapy, and you can book a discovery call in there. I'm also on Instagram, which is Sally Garozzo Mind Mentor. I do a lot of Insta stories, loads of Insta stories through the day. And I also have a Facebook group called the Menopause Mindset.
Well, I actually found out about you through your podcast.
So, I forgot about that.
You forgot about that? Yes, definitely.
Thank you. Yes, it's the same name. It's the Menopause Mindset.
Yes. So don't forget to go and check that out. Well, Sally, this has been so interesting. I hope everyone else has enjoyed it as much as I have enjoyed chatting with you today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. It's been a pleasure.
Bye for now.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Menopause Natural Solutions. This podcast contains general information about menopause. It is provided as a guide and it is not intended to replace medical advice. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests. If you have enjoyed today's episode, please leave a rating and review.